Greetings from the past, but from the time travelers, and welcome back to another episode of The Ladder. My name is Ty, and we left off with Isabella and Ash in the BRC real estate. She remembers. And no matter how weak the sound of it is from her usual ones, it's a welcome thing to hear. It reminds me that the Isabella I know is still in there. She returns minutes later with a thick stack of folders and binders. For the next half of the hour, we work in complete silence while we dig into everything compiled in the folders. Not an easy task considering how thick the whole thing is, but there's two of us. In fact, Isabella does most of the work, sorting contracts, the employees list, and stuff we won't need into a neat pile. Just the files for the restoration alone makes up a stack of papers that's an inch thick. Third-party service providers hired by for the masonry, radiators, woodworking, plasterwork, slate roofing, and a whole bunch of other things are well documented. Hell, every single contractor who worked on the project were listed individually, even if they were just there to do the plumbing. It's a high profile and high cost estate, alright, but with that scope comes the loopholes. Means plenty of room to hide something in, if there's something fishy going on. All I have to do is find a pattern. And it doesn't take long. Upon closer glance, despite the original owners shouldering the renovation costs, it will be surprising if they've managed to break even on the Ermengarde mansions. That with the additional expenses for the open house, the commissions for the agents, and other overhead fees. At one point, the negotiations to get it listed under BRC's name almost broke down too. Some disagreement about the listing price. The owners wanted to be rid of it as quickly as possible, while keeping the worth at the profitable level. BRC was insisting on a high amount, double what the appraisers suggested. This, plus the rumor that their branch is closing. BRC Luxburn really is in the red, and the sale of the mansion could have easily been a desperate move to keep the branch afloat.
No wonder the final sale happened as fast as it did. Did you know about this?
No, they took it off our hands after I submitted the final documents for the sale. I didn't even know until I read this. I'm not sure if Rose did. I've only been given the key to the records room after she... Anyway, my point is, they've kept all the files from me. Rose was the one who compiled everything from our side. And even then, she was probably not aware of this. There's only so much they let us know. After that, they just told us to wait for our commission, and that the legal team would handle the rest. The rumors are true. Huh.
Seems so.
Sheesh, this place is just unlucky, going bankrupt while the rest of this crap is happening. But this isn't what we're looking for. What we need is the who, the people aside from Isabella and Cooper involved in this business with the mansion, and the how they are now. We can't do much with the outside contractors, they won't be on file. The employee list, on the other hand, even with 2 people working through the pile, the whole task still takes quite a while. It's a quarter of an hour later when we put down the papers with a sigh and move on to the clients upon Isabella's insistence. For that, the sign-in form from the open house comes in handy. Okay. Something that gives me a laugh when I spy the fake name I wrote on one of the sheets. Really? Which one? Ashley. Really?
Why'd I even pick this name? It sounds so lame.
What name?
Nothing important. Just focus on those papers you have. We need to finish this soon, before Seb suspects anything.
She snatches the paper away before the thought of hiding it occurs to me. Not that there's much secret in it. Isabella found me that afternoon anyway, but still.
Ashley?
I've been careless that day, tailing Luke right without confirming where they were headed off to. While the butler's terrible efficiency in keeping the right engagements from the public eye, there are other ways if only I've given in the time of my day. In retrospect, I've been too eager, too impatient to find something that will crack the case and be done with it. Maybe my failure goes as far back as the day of the open house, not during the party last night.
Yeah, well, I was pressed for time.
Seriously? Ashley? Were you even trying?
Oh, come on. You didn't even notice I was the one who wrote it down.
Of course I wouldn't. Only an idiot would use his real name.
It worked though. Admit it. It's genius. Who would have thought, huh?
She responds with a roll of her eyes, then drops the matter entirely by shoving the paper back to my hand. We lapse back to our respective tasks afterwards, wordlessly skimming through everything. Read set aside, get another one. Looking back at the sign sheet, I spoke Luke Wright and Hannah Wright's listed up top. Not that I don't know about them already, of course, but scanning through the list, a name immediately comes to my attention. Which? Rich Frank, Charles Leons, Morley Taylor, Lawrence Stas,
Madeline Williams.
Who's that?
Something wrong?
Huh? No, just that I remember this girl listed here.
She frowns, moves her seat closer and takes a careful read at the sheet. There's a long moment before she speaks up again, but from the way she tenses, she appears to be expecting the worst already.
What about her?
She was with me, in the group following Cooper, when we toured the upstairs part of the mansion, I mean. Rather loud one, especially when we took a peek into the attic. Kept talking about the ghost stories the whole tour.
Then, do you think she's...
She was reported missing 3 days after.
There was a ruckus at the precinct the day her family filled it. Threats were naturally given at the lack of progress days later. Desperate ones. Her family is willing to shell out all the cash they have just to find her. To no avail, unfortunately. Officer Benjamin has been in a bad mood ever since he spoke with them. But what can he do? What can we do? He's tied. We're all tied. There's only so much we're able to do with everything that has been shoved into our hands recently.
She still hasn't been found. It's already been a week.
Oh. Isabella makes no further comment aside from a nod. Instead, she sits back on her chair with a distant look in her eyes, her hands bailing to a fist as she struggles with her frustration? Or maybe it's anger? But the moment doesn't last long. Soon, her grip loosens and she folds her hands back on her lap. Her expression, however, it's one I've seen so many times in the mirror. What does one say to a person burdened not by one loss, but many, who carries it in her shoulders like a badge of shame? I've yet to find the answer to that myself. Until then, the only way is forward. Press on to see where our attempts at fixing our mistakes might lead us. And despite my own doubts, a glimpse of that look on her face is enough reason for me. I can't just give up. There's too much at stake, too much to lose. With a renewed focus, I continue. On the third and last sheet, I spot another one. Beatrice Wilde, one I recall from the newspaper Obituaries. Died of a heart attack. A letter of correspondence expressing condolence to her family confirms as much as in her files. Passed away at age 74 in her sleep.
She's at that age. It certainly could have been a natural death.
Right. I'd like to believe so. But 3 more letters turn up when I rummage through the stack, and it leaves nothing more than foreboding feeling in me. They are all addressed to families of clients who have passed away in the past week. Regardless, these go into the pile of things worth looking into after a visit here, along with William's info sheet. There are just so many names, so many faces. Each one I've seen that day, and here I am wondering if they are all alright. It isn't a selfless thought that brings the questions to mind. Rather, it's the logic that if more of them are still alive, the more people I can choose to question. Nothing's concrete yet, of course. These are just speculations, but we are making progress. Once done with the sign-in sheets, I stash it along with the growing pile to my left and pull out as many of the other documents Isabel has already prepared for me. We are working through the employees list now, those who have been assigned to the mansion. Because if Isabella was to be believed, if what she's seen and what happened to Rose Cooper is because of that letter. I need to know everyone who has possibly read it aside from the 3 of us, if they have been noticing strange things too. For all I know, these may have just been a terrible coincidence. Although the thought of that starts to diminish as we dig into the BRC company files. 15 minutes later, the stack close to my elbow has risen from 5 to 21 different dossiers, client and employee documentation, people who have either visited the open house or worked on the property in some capacity since the letter's discovery. Turns out, there were 2 more employees who handled the mansion directly, aside from Cooper and Isabella. Christian Sy, the realty specialist, and Mark Julius Jean-Marie, the estate appraiser.
This C guy, he was in custody just the other day.
Really? Sir John has been looking for him. He stopped reporting to work a few weeks ago. Are you sure it's the same person?
Yep, this is him. Folks at the precinct said they went to his house after a noise complaint. They found him just acting all crazy. Had to take him in when he started getting violent. He kept screaming about a woman.
Oh. Immediately, she stiffens. I don't want to bring it up or imply a connection to Isabella's story, but that is exactly what happened.
It was driving the guards mad, but he didn't last too long in there. A few hours in, and he just started bashing his own head against the wall.
Oh God.
Well, it was messy, to say the least.
Oh no, we had no idea. Is he okay? HR just marked him as AWOL because none of their calls would get through.
He's in the hospital right now. I heard they're putting him into a psychiatric ward as soon as he recovers. He's still a bit unstable.
Oh God. Jean-Marie, on the other hand. His employee file notes a state of leaving, and even when his final payment had been given. Along with it, there's a letter to his family about their praise of being found dead in the office. Communication is hush-hush, and there's mention of compensation if they don't talk about it to the media. Inspector Abigail has often scolded me for not reading the reports on a regular basis, but I try to keep up to date as much as I can. When I do, I make sure I'm aware of the gist of what's going on in my city. This never reached the police ears or the health and safety executive.
Do you know about this guy?
One glance at her says everything. They have hidden it from the media. They have kept it from the police. It's not surprising this will also be a secret from someone of Isabella's position in his company. Fuck.
Rose was looking for him. Last week. We haven't heard anything from him either.
Oh my God.
Until now. They never mentioned this to us.
Business goes under and someone dies while working here. Of course they want to keep that quiet. It's bad publicity. This whole thing is just getting freakier by the minute. Nevertheless, I hand the files for Isabella to make a copy of.
The pages with their names, addresses, and contact numbers will do. We'll start with the ones who live within the city.
Sometimes, there are things you really can't just brush off as a mere coincidence. In my line of work, once a pattern pops up, it's only right to be suspicious. Especially the thing with Sai. It hits too close to the stuff my own friends have been telling me.
All of this?
It's considerably thinner than the one she brought in, yet somehow the way she hugs the folder close to herself makes it seem heavier. Like she's hanging onto it in the same manner one will latch onto a lifeline.
Only the noteworthy ones.
And those that might still be alive. Might. She doesn't need to know that.
We can't check the outside contractors, but the guys with the direct connection to BRC and the people who attended the open house should be enough. We don't have time to see how everyone's doing, especially if what you said is true.
Oh my God. For a second, she appears about to argue, then quickly decides against it and hides it away before anyone reads the question in her face. Then, in a too abrupt motion, she turns towards the copier and gets to work. Soon, only the machine's constant thrum fills the air around us, while I keep myself busy cleaning up the mess we've made. The lack of talk is awkward, to put it mildly, disturbing at worst. I've gotten so used to letting her just babble away whenever it's just the two of us. I could tell, however, she wants to do more. She wants to fix this mess herself, and that desire makes her angsty. So, what's new? Where are we? Hello? There we are. To confirm the suspicion, Isabella helped Ashton break into the Briar Realty Corporation Luxburn office at night. There, the files they found revealed the real deal with the mansion sale. That was unknown even to Isabella, and something possibly more terrible. But at the same time, she's learning how not to be impulsive or stubborn, exactly as I've told her yesterday before agreeing to any of this. Or maybe these so-called changes have always been with her. Dire situations have always pushed people to change after all. Although, seeing this happen in front of me only makes it difficult to find the proper thing to say. In an atmosphere this tense and charged, what is left for us to talk about? Certainly not the news. What's worse is when you only realize all of this is in hindsight right after you've already run your mouth off.
You know, for a house your company seems to be in a hurry to sell, they still made quite a fortune out of it. Look at this. 1, 2, 3... 6. Are you sure they're planning to give your entire share for this? This isn't a small amount, especially given the usual cut. And their accounting department isn't in the greatest shape either.
Even if they don't, it's not like someone still needs it.
And there's the reason why people don't let me talk. Silence once again descends throughout the room, denser compared to the ones we've shared tonight. Behind me, I can still hear her movements, sharp and precise, while she feeds the originals to the machine. Then, with one last click, all of it stops. Her feet shuffle slightly against the floor when she moves away. Something creaks softly, probably the table, as she settles her weight against its side. By this time, an apology is already at the tip of my tongue, but...
Belle,
Papa's gone, Ash.
Oh. Within those few seconds, everything between us shifts as the gravity of her words sink. Right then and there, something harsh and immovable rises between us. Death is something I'm familiar with. Almost 10 years in the police force, and it's impossible not to be acquainted with it. But this is different from those dead bodies we examine in forensics, a far cry from the victims we found on a bad investigation. Those I could easily distance myself from. No emotional attachments, no need for pretenses. Yet somehow I still find myself grasping for things to tell her. Any words of comfort that will dull the pain. Because even without looking at her grief feels palpable enough, her pain and immutable weight hanging over us. So gently I offer... Tell me about him. I want this to work, okay?
when?
Thank God. Thank God.
Huh? When what?
Your dad. I mean, when did you find out?
She doesn't answer. Not immediately, anyway. For a long moment, the hush simply stretches out before us, spanning across the seconds we let pass while we both simply stand there, waiting. Eventually, she exhales. Lightly, muted enough that I might missed it, had I not been paying attention to her every movement.
Yesterday,
Oh.
around 3 in the afternoon there, Mama called. She told me he passed away in his sleep, and I guess I can take comfort in that, huh? That Papa wasn't in any pain when...
She trails off, releases another ragged breath hidden underneath her chuckles, each one's mirthless, heavy with nothing but sorrow. Then she falters into silence, and for all my attempts at lightening her burden, I'm suddenly at a loss. Reassurance could only do so much, when her only reason for staying here has suddenly been taken from her. A hope yanked from under her feet right after it was generously given. And without that, without the one person who pushes her to endure all of the shit we are going through, she's going through, means nothing but a struggle. What does one say to a person fraying at the edges, slowly wearing thin and breaking? Are words even enough? What right do I have anyway? I cannot give her anything, apart from lies that changed me as a person, and affection she may or may not even want for herself. Because no matter how easy she has wormed herself into our lives, how immutable her presence has become, her own heart will always yearn for something else. For home.
Tell me about him.
Huh? About what?
Your dad. Tell me about him. Anything. Just talk. Say anything you want. Doesn't matter what it is. I'll listen.
Silence again. As if she's testing the weight of my question. For what purpose it is. For a reason even I can't say right now. After a while, though, she starts. Reluctantly, her voice hitching, faltering, and stumbling on each syllable as she chooses her words. A rough start, but soon it steadies. And along with it, to keep company the stories from childhood and memories she's fond of are the tears. Despite this, and in spite of the grief choking her words off, the hurt closing her throat, and the sob wrecking her lip form, she continues. Like the mere act of speaking is a relief in itself. Oh, Bella. A release. She tells me of her father, the very person who named her, how she looked up to him, how she was a bit of a tomboy growing up in her attempts to imitate him, and how the man encouraged her to pursue what she really wanted. Perhaps even the only thing she ever did for herself, having grown up not wanting anything more than food to put on the tables.
He told me I don't have to listen to them.
Oh.
That I can do what I want. Every day, he'd wake up at 4, Ash. Because he'd earn more that way. And every time, every single time, he'd give them to me. Whatever extra he earned, he'd hand them all. So I'd have something to use for my paintings.
Oh.
And you know what? Back home, just a good tube of paint costs almost as much as what we spend for food the whole day. But he'd always set something aside. Told me he wanted to see my paintings in a museum one day.
She pours all of it out. Every little thing she loved and admired about him. Like this, it's easy to see why she has gone to such great lengths for him. Why she abandoned her dreams. Why she went against his wishes. Just to grant him another chance at life. Others will say it's her warmth that draws people to her. Or her cheers. Neither are wrong, but neither is the whole truth to her either. Because those who have never bothered to look beyond the surface will never see it. See her. See someone earnest. Someone who has always meant well, despite her underlying stubbornness. This is how she loves. Warm. Steadfast. Unflinching. You never meet many people like her. Not in my line of work. Not with the kind of people I've had to deal with. Always with something to hide. Always with something to lie about. Eventually, when you run across too many of them, you change. You become like them. In many ways. For a lot of reasons. She's the kind of person I want to be and be around with. Who made me feel I am still worth something.
He didn't want me to leave. Said, begged. I could finish my studies first. In the end, I couldn't even grant him that one request.
Oh.
I'm a terrible daughter, aren't I?
You're not.
Huh?
Oh. Oh no. Oh, Ash.
You're not. I can't speak for your dad. I haven't even met the man. But I know you're not.
I am not entirely sure where I'm going with this. The remark just came out. Now I'm stringing all of these together as I go. But one thing is certain. None of what I'm about to say is a lie.
The Isabella I know is a total klutz, but I've never seen anyone work as hard as she does. She's the type who wears her heart on her sleeve. Though it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's always in the right place. She's intimidated by a lot of stuff, but she knows how to appreciate the smallest things in life. Frankly, you've caused us no small amount of trouble since you barged into our lives. But when I'm with you, all of my worries seem trivial.
Heat has already crept up my face when the turn this whole thing is about to take registers. Before I blurt the rest of it out, declare feelings I'm not even ready to reveal to anyone, much less to her, my hand comes up to smooth the rest of it. Though embarrassment quickly takes the reins, before I can completely clamp my mouth shut.
And I'm pretty sure Zach and Becca think the same way.
Oh.
You have a nasty way of growing on people like that, and you know what?
Well, we'll see what he's going to say next. Guys, this is it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe to my channel. If you're already subscribed, click on the notification bell down below so you get notified when I upload my videos. Share us on all your social media, and guys, I will see you in the future or back in the letter. High five! Oh god, I don't have time to record more! I cliffhang myself! Gah!